I was recently reading a book by a guy named Daniel H. Pink called To Sell is Human. And no, I didn't read the entire thing, just like I don't read most of the books that I buy. I read good chunks or sections of them, and I pick up the gems that I need to, and then I go and implement, which is something that I would highly recommend you guys do, because sometimes you don't need the entire book. Sometimes you need the gems that are in the book. Anyway, one of the very first things that kind of caught my attention in the conversation that Daniel H. Pink was having inside of his book was the number one characteristic or trait of the most successful, highest producing salespeople. The people that have all the confidence, the swag, the money, things always seem to go right for these people. What's the number one characteristic or trait that they have? And I was a little bit surprised when I found out it wasn't hard work. I was a little bit surprised when I found out it wasn't communication skills. I was a little bit surprised when I found out that the number one trait that most successful people share is that they're genuinely curious. That caught me by surprise. But after thinking about it for a little bit, it actually makes a whole lot of sense. You see, if you're on, say, a first date with somebody and you really want this date to like you back, one of the best things that you can do is avoid talking about yourself, at least for extended periods of time. Obviously, this person should end up being interested in you and asking you questions about you, but if you want them to do that and you want them to be interested in you, all you really have to do is spend the vast majority of this dinner date with this person that you're really attracted to, asking them curious questions that show that you're interested in who they are, where they've been, their experiences, their opinions, their beliefs, their expertise. And if you're able to do that successfully, people enjoy talking about themselves. They enjoy talking about their experiences, opinions, beliefs, interests, hobbies. And ultimately, that person is going to end up taking a fancy to you because you're actually curious and you're genuinely interested in things about their life. And the more that you can get somebody to unpack about their own life and their own opinions, they are going to enjoy hanging out with you because they feel like they are seen. They feel like they're understood, and ultimately they feel like they matter because you're showing that you're interested. If you take that first date scenario and you hook it up to your sales process, one thing that I can definitely recommend, and something that really honestly grinds my gears when I'm listening to my own sales staff or I'm doing some training with a client, is I can't stand when salespeople start off a question and preface it with, well, let me ask you this, or let me ask you this question. That is a bogus approach. And here's why. It doesn't show that you're actually interested. It shows that you may have like a series of qualifying questions or things that you have to know about this prospect, or that you're trying to be a little bit overly persuasive with the, well, let me ask you this type of preface to the question that you're asking. Instead of saying, well, let me ask you this, what you should say is, out of curiosity. And although you're kind of doing the same thing, you're prefacing a question with a quick little statement, all you're doing here is you're expressing that you're genuinely curious. And honestly, quite honestly, for years, I've been prefacing questions in sales with, well, out of curiosity, instead of, well, let me ask you a question. And I will say, I've had much more successful interactions with people, and come to find out it's because they think or believe or feel as though I'm being genuinely curious and that I'm genuinely interested in them, which I will say is true. I do believe I have a higher level or an innate genuine curiosity. I genuinely am interested in most of the questions that I ask. I mean, yeah, there's a couple that I just place in there because I know that they do a good job or to keep the conversation going. But for the most part, I am genuinely curious about how many units you're selling and what your gross profit is, or what you believe the hardest part about your job is, or how long it is that you've been actually attempting to solve a specific problem with a specific solution. And by the way, has that solution been any good? You can get a plethora of questions just from being curious. So you have your list of qualifying questions, the questions that you probably want to figure out for the professional format of your sales process. However, there is a slew and a litany of questions that you can ask that'll keep the conversation moving forward. And as long as you are being genuinely curious and genuinely interested in your buyer, you will increase your chances of having a successful sales interaction, because just like our first date, That person's going to spend the majority of their time talking about themselves. You're going to show that you're interested in what they're talking about themselves, and you are automatically going to get that person to enjoy spending a little bit more time with you, and they will actually reveal some things that they wouldn't otherwise reveal, because you're not just doing it to get a sale. You're not just doing it to get a check. You're not just doing it to like get some ink or a signature or whatever. What you're doing is you're actually asking these questions because you're genuinely curious and getting an answer. And trust me, people can sniff that difference out. So instead of saying, well, let me ask you this, trash that. Put it in the garbage and never ask a question like that ever again. And instead, ask people out of curiosity, ... question. I promise you'll have more success in sales, you'll make more money, and ultimately have better conversations with the prospects that you talk to.